Okay, intervention number 2. We just finished the destructive entitlement.
We gotta call this like a segment, like Tanner's
bag of tricks.
Green Tanner tries terrific tactics. Yes. Maybe we'll make it shorter.
That's good, yeah. And fewer T's maybe, or more T's, I don't know. Yeah.
So we're going with our theme here is creativity, metaphor, and novelty. Those are like the big things we're doing. Novelty, for those of you, like that's where anything new, the brain gets really excited about. So that's why we like novelty. Metaphor is something that we can see, that we can connect with. And creativity is just, thinking outside the box. So what we got, Tanner?
Okay, so the next one is to emphasize this idea of personal responsibility. Specifically,
oh man,
specifically, this happens a lot with couples where they start talking about how they don't feel like their needs are being met, and then as a result, they almost rationalize why their pain or their pain cycle is justifiable or reasonable. And so, oftentimes, when I see that dynamic kind of pop up, one of the things I do is I found these hearts on Amazon. They're pillows. They're literally like cushy. I've learned, because I've kind of experimented with this over the last few years, it's really important that a couple of things with this particular supply are in place. Number one is they need to be similar, right? So these are the exact same size. They're the exact same texture. They're the exact same consistency, but they're different. So they're different colors.
So we're seeing pillow hearts right now.
These are just pillow hearts. I think they were $11 on Amazon. Because what I did, you can kind of see on my couch, like I have some pillows that are the same or that are different. And so one of the things that would happen when I did this before is it didn't really click, because they started noticing the differences in the hearts or differences in the object that I was using. And it kind of threw the intervention off course a little bit, because then it became about, well, his is bigger or hers is not as intricate as mine. And that's not the point. Like, that's not what we're supposed to do.
His heart is dark.
Right. And so I tried to, it's been much more smooth with things that are close in similarity enough across the board. But one of the things that I'll do is I'll give each partner a pillow or a heart, and I'll tell them that your heart represents who you are and your actual love or connection in the marriage. And then I ask them, on the day that you got married, what did you do with your heart? And most people, there's a few times that this won't happen. We can talk about what happens when that takes place. But usually what people do is they'll switch. So like the husband will give his wife his heart, and the wife will give the husband her heart. Because that's a really common thing that couples think happen, right? So when I get married, I'm giving you my heart. And if they don't do that, or if they look at you like, what are you talking about? I didn't do anything with my heart. Then you kind of have to prompt them. Like, okay, so like when you got married, like, how did you think this was going to work? Or what did you think ended up happening? Or when you get caught in this dynamic, right, where you feel like your needs aren't being met, or you feel like you're justified in acting the way you do, where is your heart in the midst of that, right? And that's usually, you can usually get them to kind of exchange. Now, at that point, what I start talking to them about is, now I'll say, now you've just switched hearts, very normal, right? I might even say, yeah, that's kind of what we expect, that when we get married, we give our heart to our spouse. And then I'll look at them and I'll say, I want you to show me what happens to the heart you're holding when you get in your pain. And they'll be like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, on your pain cycle, it says that when you start to feel unloved, one of the things you do is you kind of get angry. So when you get angry, show me what happens to that heart. And they'll be like,
but they're holding the other person's heart.
They don't have their heart.
Right?
They have their spouse's. And so they'll hit it, or they'll be like, I just whatever. I'm like, that's not what you do. Like, I kind of like emphasize the intensity of their pain cycle. Or they might say they withdraw, so I'll make them like put it behind their back, or I run away, so I'll have them actually get up and move to another side of the room. I'm really just kind of getting them to show like what happens when you're in your pain. And what I emphasize is a couple of things take place. Number one is you forget you don't have your heart, because you just gave your heart to your spouse. So what you're doing is not hurting you, it's hurting them. And so then,
dang.
Like, well, is that how
Metaphor.
Like, yeah. So then we talk about, is that really your intention, is to hurt your spouse? And they'll say, no, that's not my intention. It's okay. So show me what your intention is, or what you think needs to happen. And they'll kind of like stare at you and stare at each other. And then they'll be like, I'm like, yeah, so get your heart back, right? Like, I'll talk to them about getting their heart back. And so then they'll say something along the lines of, so I'm just not ever supposed to connect or reach out and have my spouse's heart in mind. And I'll say, that's not what I'm saying at all. What I am saying is that by you regulating your pain cycle and getting into your peace, you take care of your heart. But then show me, now that you've got your heart back, what you do when you're in your peace. And then they'll reach out and they might like pet the other person's heart, or they might like hug the other person's heart. And what'll happen is they'll start trying to do like that. Well, I like to hug her heart. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Do not let go of your heart. Don't let go of your heart. Your heart is your responsibility. So even if your husband is loving it in his peace, you've still got responsibility for your heart. And let's say he maybe gets in his pain. So while he's hugging it, he squeezes really tight. So what you need to do is what? And then she'll say, well, I need to get my heart back into a good place. I'll say, exactly. That's what we do. And then we can re-engage out of our peace, so that we've still got control and responsibility for our heart, but we're also able to connect when we're in that place of truth and peace. So it just kind of drives home the idea like, listen, you're still responsible. Ultimate responsibility to be in your truth is up to you. It also means that in your truth, you act differently, which is connecting and unifying and doing those things that you want to be able to do regardless.
Do you, like, just brass tacks question here, do you keep those pillow heart pillows out like on the couch and open, or are those things you like whip out of the closet when the intervention is like, ta-da?
I don't have a closet in my office, so they just sit. I've got this windowsill next to my window, and they just kind of sit over in the corner.
Okay, so they're there.
Yeah.
Do you think it's important to have heart-shaped pillows for this intervention, or just something that's similar, very similar, maybe
just something
colors?
Very similar, right? Like I've used like the tissue box covers before. You could use books that are similar-ish enough. You could use literally anything around your office. The catch is, again, to pay attention, make sure they're as similar, but also a little bit different as possible. Because if these were the same, because I've tried it once before, where I ordered 2 hearts and they were the same color, it didn't work, because then we couldn't remember whose heart was whose, and it was like, no, I just botched all that. And so just kind of making sure that they're similar enough, but also different enough too.
Yeah. So, okay, I saw you do this intervention. The first time I tried this intervention out, I messed up the setup questions somehow, because I had them sitting down, and I had my 2 heart metaphors in front of them that they were each holding. And I said, and guys, what happens on your wedding day with your hearts? And they both went like this. They both grabbed their hearts and they go, and I had them like touching one another. And I was like, you're not doing it the way Tanner did it. I was like, well, that's good. So Tanner, help me out, because I screwed up the intervention somehow. I think it was the setup question. But it was like so sweet, because they had the 2 hearts and they were just like touching their little heart pillows together. So what would you do with that?
So I would really make sure that, again, there's lots of flexibility here. So you could roll with that on some levels. And you could even make the argument like, okay, so that's what happened on your wedding day, like pivot, right? So that's what happened on your wedding day. Now you've been married for 8 years. Now show me what's happened to your hearts, right? You could go in that direction. You could say, hey, look, I want you to each grab a heart. I want you to tell me, when you get in your pain, what does your heart do? You could have the conversation when you're in your peace. What does your heart look like when you're in your peace? The big thing is this idea of like, I'm giving my heart away, because I tend to think that that's a little irresponsible. And I don't think that that's reasonable, right? We don't want them to get in the idea that I am relinquishing my heart to your care, because part of what I emphasize is, listen, like, your spouse is a great individual, but your spouse is not 100% trustworthy at all ever. And so you don't want to relinquish your responsibility to your spouse, who is maybe going to hurt it and has hurt it and will continue to hurt it. So we want you to be able to mend it yourself and tend to it yourself, but then also be able to extend it and engage with it outside of and in your peace and out of your peace actions.
I got to say, like, if I'm sitting in session with you and I'm in this intervention, like, that's a radical idea that most people have never heard. I mean,
so good.
Show me somewhere in culture where the idea is not to give your heart away in a committed relationship, you know? Like, I know we've been hitting on this emotional self-regulation, co-regulation piece. I know Ron's been talking about it. I know it's in the mindful marriage. I know it's part of the RT model, but I don't know. I love that, because that's just got to be mind-blowing for a lot of couples when you do that intervention. They've never even heard that before, possibly.
Yeah, it's very similar to, like, one of the other things, and some of us do this differently as well, but when I draw their pain cycle and their peace cycles, I draw that black line underneath, and we start talking about, like, you can only be responsible for what's on your side of the line. Anything that emphasizes that idea really does kind of throw them for a little bit of a loop. And you really have to make sure that what you could set up is, well, I don't have to care about my spouse. I only have to care about myself. And I'm always very intentional about saying, I see how you can get there, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that when you get in your pain, you get your responsibility. You don't look to your spouse to make you get in your truth. You get in your truth, and then you re-engage. So it really kind of helps drive home. And it is very countercultural and counterintuitive to a lot of marriages.
Yeah.
Love it.
I love that. Yeah.
Once again, we are taking down the co-regulation. We are the co-regulation police. You're going down. Come on. Does that make sense, people? Why should you be holding your spouse's heart and just throwing your heart to the wayside? Come on.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for Lance to get a cease and desist letter from a certain therapy model someday. I'm just kidding. I love it. A
little controversy is really good for the people, right?
Yeah.
All right, that was good. Right. Remember, guys, grab your heart pillows on Amazon. It'll be in the link. Some good heart pillows that are soft and somewhat different, but not completely different, because we don't want to have those conversations.
Tara's got like two gray pillows. It looks like one's a little darker gray and one's lighter gray, but you know, barely different. So
yeah, I hearted that exercise, by the way. I hearted it.
Well,
oh boy.